Hi, welcome to The Intersections. I am your host, Mike Mooney, and I'm here to help you release false beliefs about yourself so that you can begin to see yourself as you are seen by the source of life within you. When you know who you are, it changes the way you think, which changes the way you create the world. Let's just jump right in here. I want to get focused in on the very essence of what the intersections is all about, which is these four intersections that you can see here on the whiteboard. You know, it's taken me quite some time to get to a place where I felt like I could share what I have been able to see and the construct of reality that has been exposed or revealed to me over the past few years. And I've been asking the question to God, to Source, why is life the way it is? Why are things built the way they're built? And I've been getting answers slowly over time. And this piece of reality was shown to me probably 2 years ago, and I wasn't sure what to do with it until recently. And I really believe that what is the value of this in my life is to be able to communicate and share it with you guys so that you can apply these concepts or understand these concepts and use them to pick apart maybe even a better word is deconstruct the way you view yourself and the way you interact with reality in 3D, the way you act with life, the way you interact with your higher self, the way you interact with God. And when you understand these four different components or intersections of reality, they all intersect inside you. So you are actually at the center of the intersections of reality. And if you're like me and you grew up in the United States, you have had people tell you you're not the center of the world, you're not the center of the universe. But when you understand the richness and the uniqueness of the higher dimensional realities, what you might call, well, what Christianity calls heaven, but the elevated state of being where God exists and where your higher self exists, everything does actually revolve around you. And it's really important for us to come to this understanding that I'm not only the center of the universe, but I'm also part of multiple millions or maybe infinite universes. So that allows me to start to take a look at myself first and say, how do I know me? How can I know me? And if I can know me, can I then take that information and modify the environment in which I live or the conditions in which I live? And can I modify my interactions with the other beings who are the center of the universe from Source's perspective or from God's perspective? I am going to tend to stay away from the word God because I think that word has been misconstrued and misused by, let's say, certain people and certain religions over time, and it no longer really carries the value or the meaning that it originally had or should have. And the word creator also is a good word, but I like saying source. Some of the mentors, spiritual mentors that I've been connected with over the past few years use that terminology, and it for me has just become very personal. I know a lot of Christians like to use the word father. Jews also, I believe, use the word father, and I have no issue with any of the terminology. I think I want to probably say this in the very first, and I'll say this a lot. Words are just containers for energy and for concepts and for focused concepts, focused consciousness. So if I use a word that you like or don't like, just dismiss that word and change it to a word that fits more with what makes you comfortable, because the word itself is just a container. It's the energy, it's the essence of what I'm trying to communicate and convey, which a lot of these concepts come into my head or into my heart in through different chakras, through different energy points. They come in picture form, or they come in block form, they come in word form, or sometimes video form, or sometimes it's writing on a chalkboard. It depends on how I receive it and what mood I'm in. and how my brain is functioning that day. But the same applies to you, and we'll talk about that as we analyze the intersections a little bit. That the way you perceive information doesn't necessarily make the information. Doesn't Let's say when you perceive information, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've perceived it in its entirety or that you've perceived it correctly. So when I say something and you hear it through your perception filters, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've heard what I meant. It might mean that you heard it through the grid that you're capable of hearing right now. So hold everything I'm saying lightly. Hold yourself lightly, and as we go through this process, we're going to have a lot of fun trying to understand and have a clearer picture of who we really are as extensions and expressions of Source or God. And as we become more aware of ourselves, it will bring clarity of thought, which will empower us to make significant impact in our lives and in the lives of the people that we love and in the lives of the people that we come in contact with, that are maybe strangers right now and soon to be friends or family. So I want to start with just explaining the 4 intersections. As you can see here at the top, we've got spirituality and I put that at the top because it's kind of the highest understanding that we have of the human experience, is spirit, or energy as another word. The word spirit is, I don't want to get into a word study for every single word here, but it can be very helpful when you try to pick apart why a container or word carries a certain energy or carries a certain meaning. But spirituality is an understanding of the essence of what makes reality exist and what makes us exist and why we exist. So we have spirituality at the top, and everything in life derives from spirit. Everything derives from energy. Everything is made of energy, and so there's no getting away from that. There's only, do you understand energy? Have you begun the process of understanding the energy that created everything, and the energy that is everything, and the energy that is you, and the 2 different parts of you, the lower part of you, which is the physical self, and the higher part of you, which is your energetic self, your eternal self. And these 2 things are merged into one being right now. So while there's duality of consciousness, I don't want to create the idea that there is a lower you that's disliked and a higher you that's likable or lovable. It's all one that's loved and lovable and adored by Source, and the whole universe ultimately is looking at you in your physical self right now and adoring who you are, and you may not be adoring who you are, and that's a lot of the work that we're going to go through. So spirituality is the essence of existence, and when spirit or energy collapses into matter, it can become anything. And in your case, and in my case, it became physical self, physical body, physical reality of this expressed genetic biological entity that we call human life. And so your physicality is what allows you to bring your thoughts, bring your feelings, which is your energetic DNA. The pairing of your thoughts and your feelings is your energetic DNA, and we'll get into that later in different teachings. But that pairs up with your biological DNA, the base pairs that create this body that has these 6 senses. There's more senses than that, but the 5 basics and plus proprioception, which is your brain's ability to connect to your body and feel it in space, which is really important. I feel like Joe Dispenza there, in space. So spirituality actually creates physicality. Now over here you see we've got philosophy, and philosophy is the way you view the world, but it's not, nobody views the world without information having been gathered first. So philosophy is really the way you perceive information, and then you use your own facilities, your own intellectual facilities to actually create a worldview. And so philosophy is the worldview according to what you have perceived to be true or factual in your life experience. And philosophy is an interesting thing because a lot of people have a lot of philosophies that do not serve them, and those philosophies ultimately that causes them to create a world that they may not like, but their philosophy just keeps deriving from their conditions, from their experience. And so, philosophy, let's just define that as the way you see things, is very, very important in understanding how the way you see things modifies the way you present yourself to the world, and the way you present yourself to source, and the way you view yourself in relationship with source and reality and your physical self. So that's philosophy. And then over here we've got free thought. And free thought is, I'm using that phrase free thought to really try to convey a concept of creative thought. Thoughts that you personally either receive from source within you, or you think of them on your own, which is very, very uncommon. Most people don't really have original thoughts. And to be honest with you, I don't know how many original thoughts you really want to have apart from the source within you, because when you receive the thoughts from that divine nature, from that elevated thought feeling combination that is your energy DNA or your spiritual DNA, that DNA is the source code of all of life. And when you receive a thought from there, it's the freest that any thought can ever be, because it's detached from the physical world, and it's detached from your perceptions and philosophies. And so when you get a free thought that comes from the inside of you, that is from the deep, deep part of you, or the eternal part of you, that's where you get what we call inspiration, that causes people to make significant contributions to the expansion of the world, the universe, and the human race. So these are the four intersections. The way I kind of see it is spirituality at the top actually creates physicality. And for our purposes, we're going to talk about physical reality over the course of time, but we're also going to talk a lot about your physical self, your brain, body, and your trauma set that you're carrying around, that you've inherited from generations of people that are responsible for you being here in this physical body. Physicality is, in some ways, many ways, responsible for how you develop your philosophy, because you have perception filters that your brain and your body and your trauma set create the way you process information. And so your physicality actually influences your philosophy, and then your philosophy actually influences your free thought. And so the essence of the intersections is understanding these relationships that occur with you right at the center of these intersections. And what we want to do, my goal, my aim, is to help you see you here as spirit, as energy, as I am. When you see yourself as I am, it is much easier to bypass some of this process and go straight to free thought. And when you have free thought that's inspired by your higher self, which is, your higher self is always aligned with your desires. When you bypass the limiting beliefs, philosophies, and your perceptions of your physical self, the inspiration that comes from those free thoughts can catapult you rapidly into a whole new life, into a whole new way of living. So I don't want to beat this to death. I want to keep these videos short as much as I can, even though it's hard to take existential concepts and frame them up in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But I think that's a good place to say this is the essence of what we're going to do. We're going to talk about different categories, different subject matter. We'll be talking about, social interaction. We'll talk about finance. We may talk about anything in the world except politics, and maybe even politics, because you do have to understand where you fit in with politics, or you choose not to fit in with politics. When you really, I believe, understand who you are, politics doesn't really matter that much, because politics doesn't influence your eternal self. Politics only influences your physical self. And if you can live above that, it's a very different, very free lifestyle. And I can say this as someone who was caught up in politics for a long time and constantly plagued by the frustration. And it's not just politics, it's family and friendships and relationships and so many things in life that can be difficult. But understanding these intersections will empower you to see you clearly, which will help you to change the way you think, which will ultimately help you change the world that you create. And that's what we're here to do. So be sure to subscribe to this channel. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Snapchat. Anywhere that you can find us. Where I think we're on Facebook too. And I'll have that information for you guys coming up. But subscribe and share it with your friends. And be sure to comment and leave your feedback. I'm very open to any comments or feedback that you guys might have. My goal again is to be able to deliver information that you can bring into your meditation, bring into your thought life, and use that information and the energy contained in that information to set yourself free from limiting beliefs and change the way you think and change the world that you create. So thanks for watching. I'm gonna see you guys really soon, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. Again, I'm Mike Mooney, and this is The Intersections.